having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. So, Pierre, why don't you start? Give us a bit of a background. What got you to where you are today?
Well, it's very easy. I'm a father of 4 children, so I've been forced to be involved in fighting against gender ideologies and all the other Marxist ideas that they try to push to our children in school. So yeah, so I start that journey probably at least almost 5 years ago now, I will say. Uh, they were trying to expose my children to some of those ideologies, and I decided to expose what they were doing. And at that time, it was not very popular to to expose them because people were canceled all the time for exposing these peoples in schools. So I became kind of known across the country for exposing what the teachers are doing in schools and the type of book that they are showing to children's.
And if I could ask, so I hear the lovely French accent. Did your journey start in Quebec, or was it always in BC?
What?
Did you start in Quebec? Did you notice this change in Quebec, or was it in
No,
BC?
I've been in BC for my gosh, probably 17 years now. So yeah, no, I didn't notice this in Quebec. No, it started in BC, definitely. Yeah.
It started in BC. And for what grade? Like from your first child being in the school system, or
It's
when did it
everywhere.
start?
It's from kindergarten to K-12, so it's everywhere. So even yesterday, my daughter came. 2 days ago, they had I think that was the Black History Month. No, not the Black History Month. Sorry, the I don't know. Something about black peoples anyway. And my daughter came back home saying that the white people they bad because they did that to the black people. So you see, this is it happened with gender ideology, happened with critical race theories. It's always something that that they try to put into the head of children to brainwash them that.
Black Excellence Day.
Yeah, black. Here we go. Black excellence. That was that exactly. So yeah, so they had to wear a black T-shirts in schools and all this BS. So anyway, but it's a constant battle because even if they know me, they know that I don't like this stuff, but they're still trying, and every time I expose them. So yeah, that's all I can know actually. Trust me, I'm far from being a politician or someone that actually wants to be. I just can't wait to just get away of this stuff. But no, I kind of don't. I put myself in a positions when I don't really have the choice to continue because I got so much information that a lot of people don't have. So that's why I can see this battle, because there's not many people that do this. So yeah,
for sure. And thank you for taking up the fight. And then your fellow warrior, Melanie, just give us a refresh of who you are and what you're speaking about there on, I believe, the Canadian Culture Wars report.
Yeah, thank you for asking me to come back, and thank you for asking me to come with Pierre because we've spoken a few times together before, and it's always been quite nice. I like speaking with Pierre, so yeah, thank you for that. I don't have children in school right now. I arrived from the UK in 2017. My child was in high school. I don't really like to talk too much about my personal life, but I will suffice to say I came to the realization through the pandemic that there was something a little bit wrong with what was going on in school here in Canada. And the more I investigated it, the more obvious it became to me that there was a serious issue with education. And it started off with the issue of trans, having met quite a few young people going through that process and speaking to them through my son's friends. I realized very early on that they weren't attached to reality. And you're right. I was very much a leftist for a very long time. I had a very leftist career, which I no longer have. I've moved on from that. But as a leftist, I didn't question a lot of these things that were going on. It's just being kind. Where there's nothing wrong with trans people, and to a certain degree, I'm still fine with adults doing what they want to do. But there's a difference between adults making decisions and it being imposed on young people. And also I found, I mean, what really woke me up is when I discovered there very much is a pipeline in education where the kids are seeking, or they're getting these ideas in school and online. It's being affirmed in schools. Then they're being advised to go to doctors without parental consent or knowledge. And those doctors are also providing medications very early on, sometimes on the first visit. And that's been an experience through a kid that I've known, that on the first visit, there's no mental health assessment. There's just medications provided. There's no follow-ups. And this is what really kind of twigged me, that adults, not just teacher adults, but medical professionals would be doing this without parental consent or knowledge at young ages, like in this case is 16 years old, or providing things like binders. So it was a real awakening for me through my experience in education. I come from a research background, and so my initial instinct is to start looking at what's going on. And through that, I ended up in a lot of the pedagogy, a lot of the academic writing. And I've discovered quite a lot of very interesting things about what teaching really is, and what the foundations of teaching are, and how our teachers are being taught, and what they believe that their role is. And so we have a real problem in education, and it really comes from academia. So that's where I'm coming from. It's really just, I think people need to understand that how our educators are being educated is a real problem. It's very social justice orientated, but that social justice is about creating activists within schools. I mean, here, I'm in Ontario. I just want to point that out. And here in Ontario, our Ministry of Education has a whole department of equity. There's an equity secretariat. How Soviet is that? And in the equity secretariat, they disperse a lot of this DEI stuff, and it really comes from the top. Our Minister of Education right now clearly is very aware of the problem and not doing anything. And so, the reason I have a channel is I'm really trying to bring awareness to some of these issues that people may not have time to read. They don't want to read the pedagogy. They don't want to read the different types of, the pedagogy, or even the literature, right? So here in this library here, I have a whole bunch of like academic pedagogy books. Anyway, so this is kind of what I see my role as, is I've got the time, I've got the interest. I'm just trying to translate a lot of this information so parents can have some knowledge on what's actually being disseminated to their children through education.
And speaking of literature, I'm going to bring up your website, Pierre. Thank you very much for doing this. This is stopsogi.ca.
Yeah, I changed the name actually. It was exposingsogi123.com before. So people can still access it with exposingsogi123.com. But I was censored on Facebook, so I just changed the name of the domain. And I think Stop Sogi is more easy for people too.
I think so. Can you talk me through it as I scroll down? Like, what prompted you? Because there's a lot of energy and effort and research that's gone into this website. What prompted you to take that extra step to create this and then obviously put it out to share?
Well, when I saw that my kids were exposed to this stuff, I started to expose the principal at my daughter's schools about what they were doing, and I realized that it works because the first times I exposed somebody that was exposing children to this kind of stuff, they actually removed 3 books from the school. So I realized, wow. So I'm gonna start just to do this for other people, so they can get they can get together and fight back this war with a little bit more evidence. Because at that time, 4 years ago, we didn't have a lot of evidence about what was really going on in school. Not many people were doing a lot of research about that. So and that's why I decided to create the website. So every time I was, and I'm pretty good actually with technology and data science and computers and all this stuff, developing website as well. So I just use my skills and share all the data and iPhones with the people, and even the book review. I don't recall any site. A couple of years ago that really had a place where you can go and you can really see the books that are in school. And the only way that you can really we can say that there is sexually explicit materials in school, but if we don't know the titles and we don't know what to look for, we'll look
Correct.
forever, right? So, but with couple tricks, and I was able to kind of find out which books to look for. So I just put them online so people can have an idea of what to.
That's excellent, because a lot of the titles, well, could be very innocuous. They may not necessarily be clear on what their intent and their subject matter is. So
Yeah.
by discovering them and then sharing out these titles is an excellent way to just help create the awareness for the parents. And what I loved is this area here, templates.
Yeah.
Templates, submenu contains templates that parents can utilize to email teachers, principal, trustees, and so on. The templates provide a structured format for communicating concerns, requesting information, or bringing awareness to board members over sexually explicit materials available in school libraries. I mean, that's the key thing. A lot of parents will turn around and say, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to draft. Like, who do I approach and what do I say? Giving them just a basic breakdown of this is what it can look like. You fill in, the gaps, so to speak, or the blanks, really empowers some parents to then take the next step, just like you did, to try and share their concerns with the teachers and school boards and such. Melanie, how do you think, is this needed? How can are there more sites like stopsogi.ca? Are there more parents stepping up with information to share with others?
Well, yes, Pierre's website is incredibly needed. I don't personally know of anybody else doing anything like Pierre's doing, and it's an incredible resource. I haven't been to it in a while. It looks a little bit different, looks a little bit friendlier now, but it is a really incredible resource. And if any parents are out there concerned about what might be going on, it's not just for BC. There's sections about the entirety of the country. Like, for example, you can go search the books, and there's, I think, either PDFs showing you some of the content of these books. So you don't even have to buy them. It's already out there. So I don't know of any other resource like that. So it is incredibly needed. It would be good if other people would do things like that. But there certainly are a bunch of parents, pardon me, there certainly are a bunch of parents pushing back. I've met quite a few, in the thousands probably there are that I know of across the country in different provinces, who are getting together in their own local areas and sharing how they can bring attention to some of these issues to their school boards or districts. Now, largely, they're being pushed back by the school boards or districts because schools have a very strong equity focus, and trans and queer issues are very embedded within that sort of DEI framework. So there's not a lot of luck, but there's some areas that have more luck than others. I mean, if you want to talk about specific cases, certainly I work a lot with a group here so I'm in the Greater Toronto area, and I would say in Toronto, it's very, very difficult. The Toronto District School Board is one of the worst in the country, I would imagine, for some of these things. But just next door, there's another school board, the Durham District School Board, which also is woke, but some of the parents organizing there are incredibly effective. And they use tools like going to school board meetings, asking questions. Obviously, that doesn't get very far, but they engage in other areas. So, for example, the freedom of information requests are used quite a bit, and they follow the process. And so I think it depends the level of success in the different areas. But there's to answer the question a little bit more briefly than what I'm doing, yes, there's a bunch of parents who are actually getting together, sharing information, and pushing back as best as they can. Now, I know that Pierre has been very effective just pointing out some of these books and getting them out of schools. I don't think that's been as successful here in Ontario. So because we mustn't forget that schools in different areas are not all the same. They're not all built the same. So whoever's running a school or even a school board is going to have a big impact on how effective some of this stuff can be. So we just have to try. Everybody has to try in their own little way, in their own little area.
Yeah,
as they should. Yeah, as they should. And I just wanted to share here. So under the books, we have book reviews, and you have a number of books listed. And how did you come across these books? Like, how did you discover them? Was it solely you? Do you have a group of parents working together who've referred them to you over time?
Yeah, well, the first time I find the first 6 books, I find the book because the principal at my daughter's school has a pride wall, and on that wall they had 42 books, and so I was able to zoom in and find out the titles. So I just decided to pick a couple of them, buy them, and review it. So, and I asked the principal actually to give me the list of all the LGBT books that were in his school. So he gave me the list. So that was a good start. And after that, if I find some people speaking about some books online, so okay, I bought that book. At some point, I got a group of Christian women in Surrey. That's right, in the Surrey Christian School Board. I exposed that school boards, so the Christians community was very pissed off because they realized that this was in the school. So I had help actually from a lot of old, not happy women. Trust me, they were not happy about the school board, so they did help me a lot to find couple of the books, and they did help with the review. So I published this online. So yeah, so it started by myself. I got a little bit of help with the book review at some point. And yeah, the book locations the same. Most of it is everything that I found, but they are a couple that parents just send me the list, then I put this on my website. Like yesterday, there is a group of parents from a school district that just sent me a new list of the books that they have in school. So, and they asked me to put this on my site because it's more easy for them too, because they put the information on my site, and I just send them a link so they can share it with everybody, right? I can put PDF, Excel sheet, doc document, anything, right? It's my server, so and it's easy for people to share information that way. And I also share all the email that I sent to because I sent email to many school districts all across the country. So, and this is the way actually my name was starting to get around, right? And but it's probably the way that I got in touch with Melanie actually, is because I was sending email with I think Waterloo School District, the Alton School Districts, and other school districts in Ontario. So that's why I get in touch with those people as well. So yeah. So
how is the response been from the school districts that are religious based, the Christian, the Catholic school based, when they discover, or it's been brought to their attention by a parent, that these books are in their libraries? How do they typically respond?
Listen, the Christians and the Catholics, or whatever religions you call, they all infested by this parasite. Okay, so they trust me, it's not because they're Christians that they are against it. And so it's really that's the thing with the work ideology, right? It infests the head of people, and regardless of their religious backgrounds, or if they're not religious, whatever. And but anyway, so the reactions was from some of the Christians' parents and grandparents. It was not from the Christian school board who wanted to keep the book there, but the parents didn't want the book there. So you understand? So it's like, yeah, people are saying, oh, just send your kids to a Christian school, then everything's gonna be fine. No way. It may even be worse. There is a lot of stories about religious schools and church and all this stuff. They're not all of sin. So, and now you bring these things up, you bring gender ideology within it, and you can really point out which one that are most likely actually to abuse children is the one who are pushing gender ideology into the church. If there is a church that push gender ideology, for me, I will trust none of the pastor or priest there, 100%. So yeah, this is just want to specify that.
Yeah, Melanie, I saw you nodding and shaking your head with some of the comments that he was saying. So why don't you join in?
Well, I want to add to that, because this issue is not necessarily, I know might be framed as a religious issue. Certainly, like the woke crowd might say that there's a Christo-fascist, whatever, but it's not really a religious issue. I mean, maybe for the Muslims, but the issue of this stuff being in schools comes from academia. This is where it comes from, because our teachers in Canada must have a teacher certificate, which you obtain by going to university. Now, all universities in the education departments have this kind of, so they push this training, this idea that you have to be inclusive. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is a driving force in education. Social justice education, activist education is a really big part of teacher education. I've had many, many student teachers, talk to me in my DMs anonymously about some of the stuff that they're learning. And they have to be aligned with this ideology to get their degrees. So it's being pushed to the teachers in teacher college. Now, why is that important? Because what that means is, whether your child goes to a Catholic school or a private school or a public school, they're all being taught at teacher college. Now, there are some teachers who don't like this, who go through teacher college, but for the most part, they either ignore it or they're really on board for it. There's a whole pedagogy of activist education. I mean, at the Ontario Institute for the Studies of Education here in Toronto, which is one of the most prestigious in the country, they have whole departments dedicated to doing this kind of pedagogy, to teaching teachers how to, what they call, transform society through their activist pedagogies. In other words, how to teach students how to themselves become activists by finding identity groups that they can that they can use to become activists. Now, I have a bunch of stories that I wrote out that I can describe this further, but the issue here is that our teacher colleges are pumping out people who are essentially being pushed into doing this or believe in it. And then on the other side of that, teachers must join a teachers union. And those unions are heavily involved in encouraging and pumping a lot of this activist pedagogy. Now, I say pedagogy, I'm just going to say what that means. It's just the theory and practice of teaching. It's the academics of teaching, shall we say, right? But that field is infected with this kind of thinking. Now, they believe that children understand that they may be a different sex from a very early age, and it would be uncouth to do anything but just to believe them. And so it's very important to provide them opportunities at the youngest age, say kindergarten, to describe to them that there are other ways of being. You could be born in the wrong body, because I'm a very virtuous teacher, so I need to tell you, classroom, through these books that we're talking about, and they're not overly sexual at the youngest ages. It might just be like, I'm a blue crayon, but really inside I'm a red crayon. Nobody knows I'm a red crayon, but because I look blue on the outside. And so there's these stories about not being your authentic self, because they're taught that. They're taught this is how you be a teacher, because your role is to transform society, to liberate students to become their true selves. This is all over the literature in education. And I try to explain that a little bit in more detail with links and sources in the videos that I produce. But the point of all of this is just to say it's coming from the faculties of education.
Yeah, and yeah. So
I just wanted to.
Yeah.
One thing I understand. I get that the teachers are being taught it and indoctrinated, and that's the message that they spread. How does it get to the school board level? Because my understanding is that some school boards don't have ex-teachers on it. They do have parents on there.
Who ends up in a role in the school board?
Well, I think I can understand some of they've gone through the high levels, the principals, and that's another level they move up on.
Start off as a teacher.
And I know what happened. It's very easy. Listen, before COVID, no one was involved in politics. It's very simple. Nobody really cares about who was a trustee or not. So what they do is they put the people there. They put the work peoples, the Marxist peoples, to get elected for position as trustees, and they got all the little minions voting for them. It's very simple, because I was not involved in politics before in regards to trustees, because I trusted the educational systems. So that's what happened. We have to reverse it, actually. Now we have to put our people there and make sure they get elected. So go on, Melanie.
I'm going to respectfully disagree whilst agreeing with you. Yes, education has been highly political, and we need to talk about trustees if we're going to talk about this. I'm going to give an example of which may answer your question. In 1968, a man called Patrick Case came to Canada from England. His family originally from the Caribbean. And he was really into the Black Power movement, and he decided that he was going to become a school board trustee because through his activism with the Communist Party of Canada, learned that you could get into a role as a school board trustee. So this Patrick Case in the late 1960s ran on a Communist Party of Canada platform for many cycles until he dropped it in the long run. But why am I mentioning Patrick Case? Because Patrick Case remained a school board trustee for many, many decades, pushing a lot of his socialist activism at the school board. And he left, I think, in the late 90s, and he left to become a lawyer. Now, over time, he went from becoming a lawyer to working at the Ministry of Education. So he was always involved in education in one way or another, but specifically in equity in education, because equity in education has been around for many, many decades. It's not actually that new. It's just new that we've noticed it. So why is Patrick Case important? Patrick Case is a really good example of what's been going on in the education system for a very, very long time. This is a Toronto District School Board, by the way, if I didn't mention that, in Toronto. And he's not unique in his communist or socialist sensibilities. So when Pierre says Marxist, he's correct. And this man is a man who was recently appointed by the Minister of Education to investigate school boards' political biases, far left political biases over some protests, some children that were taken to a pro-Palestine protest in the guise of an environmental protest. It was all over the news. So this is not atypical. How did I learn this information about this Patrick Case who was appointed? I learned about it because in 2005, a man called Tim McCaskill, who is self-proclaimed the granddaddy of gay liberation in Toronto, who is also a Marxist, who writes a lot of Marxist texts, wrote about Patrick Case and all of his friends and their time at the school board and how they were transforming society in the 80s and 90s. So this has been going on a really, really, really long time. So that's the political element. They're not necessarily educators themselves, but they're very closely aligned with unions. The unions are also socialist groups who've basically taken on a new form of socialism. It's not really about the proletariat. It's not really about the working class. It's really about identity politics. That's the new thing in socialism today. And they're very involved in pushing that within the education. They're very close ties with all of these people who work in the school boards. By the way, one of the people in the books actually worked as a vice chair of the board of the Toronto Police Service for many years too. So if we're wondering what's going on with the Toronto Police Service, because we have Marxists in there. So it's not just the teachers. So you will get teachers who kind of go up the ranks to become principals. How do they become principals nowadays? You really have to signal your social justice alliance. The social justice alliance is very Marxist orientated. It's very DEI orientated. Then you move up the ranks, and eventually those principals might become employed at the school boards. And so there's a pipeline of ideology that's moving people up the ranks into these roles, right? You're not going to get a role at the Ministry of Education making decisions about how education runs if you're not aligned with this particular ideology. And that's been going on a really long time. So I'm going to push back on the fact that this is new. It's not new. My research has shown me that this has been going on at least since the 60s here in the GTA. Mm-hmm. And I imagine in British Columbia, it's probably similar.
What have you discovered with your history there, Pierre, looking into BC?
Yeah, listen, I agree that the Marxist indoctrination has been happening since after World War II, in my opinion. But my point was that we elect those people. They are elected officials. So, they are brainwashed people, but we still elected them. And the reason they're there is because the only people who elected them are the Marxist one or ignorant one. So that was the kind of the point, because they're not you cannot be a trustee if you're not elected. So it's because of us, because we were not involved into that systems. Because we thought that everything was good in school, and since 5 years ago, right? That we
so now happened. So is it too late? So if you, like you said, before we pled ignorance, that's some had the ulterior motives and some were voted because the people were ignorant to not know any better to vote particular people in. Well, now we do. Now, there are a lot more parents awake, a lot more parents getting more information, have serious concerns about what is being taught in their children's schools. What can we do today?
I can answer that, because I think part of I'm just going to go back a little bit. I think part of the issue is that up until recently, many people weren't aware. Like I wasn't aware, and I think a lot of people still aren't really fully aware what's going on in education, and so didn't necessarily vote in trustee elections in their local municipal elections. So that is an issue. The people who would end up voting were, at least here in Ontario, very backed by the NDP, who is the Socialist Party of Canada. And there's a lot of like grassroots, local level money and organizing and power behind the NDP. They're very successful on a local level, and a lot of those end up in trustee positions. So there's that. And because people don't really know who their trustees are and don't really vote, that doesn't happen. But at the same time, there are independent trustees who've just been pillars of their community, who are known in their community. I know one, Linda Stone, who was just an independent person. You know, she participated in her community for a long time, became elected. When she realized what was going on, she pushed back. She ended up being pushed out of the school board at the Durham District School Board because she was pushing back on some of these books. But so it's not all so black and white. However, we do know that there are issues now. It's becoming more well known and more publicized. So it's important for people to vote in their municipal elections for trustees. Now, again, I'm going to mention the Durham region, because in Durham region, there is a group who's formed. They're called Back to Basics. They're just ordinary citizens who were really concerned about what was going on in schools. And they formed a group, and they're trying to get essentially candidates, non-woke candidates. I think for the most part for them, they're really interested in Christian candidates for their particular purposes, but those who are not pushing a lot of these social justice ideologies and going more for a sort of back to basics approach to education. So they're gathering all the candidates that they can, that they can within their area to sort of flood the next election with suitable candidates with a website where they can say, well, this candidate believes in this candidate believes in this, and really engaging the community in voting for better candidates. So this is the power of local people doing things on a local level, talking to one another, being aware of what's going on. I talk to these guys all the time. I'm also part of a group called the Parents' Rights Coalition of Canada, which Pierre has spoken on some of our summits. And the people who did Back to Basics recently spoke at that summit to share what they're doing. And so all that to just raise the point that we can do something. There's a lot of information out there, both mine and Pierre's. We're sharing a lot of information for people. You can take that information, become more acquainted with what's going on, maybe put out information in your own local area, talk to people, get groups together, do effective things. Protest is fine. It works, I guess. It's a good PR campaign. But what's more effective is actually organizing on a local level with like-minded people like Back to Basics, who are getting... really trying to bring together all these concerned people who really want to see a better education and promoting them as potential candidates, because our elections are 2026, I think, are the next elections. So we've got some time.
Got some time. Let people see if they're willing to step up or encourage others to do so. I think that's excellent for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys know each other through the work that you've done. Have you done any projects together? Have you spoken at any events together? Because you are like East and West.
Yeah, well, I fly to Ontario a couple of times actually. Yeah, I fly to I think 2 times, right? I went to Ontario 3 times. So I see Melanie a couple of times at I think it was Billboard Quiz protest. Is that correct? And then then we talk about this stuff, and I got a big meeting with the Free US settings, I believe, in Ontario with Shannon, and so I fly there. So I saw Melanie, I saw many other people there in Ontario. That's for sure. Yeah, we do work together. Yeah, we used to work together a bit more.
We've spoken at a few events, some live. Yeah, a couple times live at live events.
Yeah. But we used to work a bit more actually, probably in 2023, like together. But the elections, the elections at BC messed up a couple stuff here. So we're very focused on having the NDP off. It didn't work.
What do you think parents need? Do they need events to go to? Do they need more shows like what you do, Melanie, and like what we do? Do they need more websites from Pierre? Like, what can we do in order to build the numbers?
What can they do? I think it's I think Melanie says something important here when she said we need to organize on a local level. The reason I was able to remove stuff is because I maybe know all across the countries, but I'm fighting for my city, okay? And I'm very local there, and people they know me there. And I was able to remove book there because I'm in my city. I go to see the teacher. I go to see the trustee face to face. We go to the same mall. We go to the same shopping center. So you know what I mean. So I think it's important to organize as a local level. Yes, speech interview they good, but no, there's not many people that watch them. I mean, this thing's gonna be 2 hours, right? We're gonna take some snip of the
Snippets.
videos of what people can focus on, but it's not that people don't have focus. It's people have something else to do. So that's why my main things for me is just to show people in my place the books that they are showing to children and what they are doing with them, and give them all the tools so they can write email to trustees and principal. But it has to be at the local level, and that's why I had success compared to a lot of people, because a lot of people they just talk about this stuff and nothing changed. I was actually able to remove stuff from this group, and that's the reasons, because I'm not even on. I talk to the trustees. I go to school board, but the school board meeting, they don't allow us to talk about Fuji here. But the thing is, I meet the trustees, but I meet the principal face to face. They don't like it, and I don't go there like with 10 people behind me. I go there by myself. I've talked to the principal at my daughter last time, my daughter's school, for 30 minutes because I find a rainbow flags in his office. And I asked the principal, why the heck do you have a rainbow flag in an elementary school as a principal? Why? Then he explained to me why and all this stuff. But I made him uncomfortable, to have this. And I think that's the key. We have to make those people uncomfortable to expose our children to this kind of stuff. So it's very easy.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Melanie.
but you're also a very particular individual. So there is this meme that I'm sure everyone has seen where there's a guy cracking the whip, right? He's cracking the whip and all the people are falling down. They don't want to be cracked by this whip. And there's one guy standing up. Pierre is that one guy standing up. Then all of a sudden, because Pierre is standing up, a whole bunch of other people in that meme in the next, cell, a few other people stand up. That was me. I was after Pierre. Okay. Then after that, a whole bunch of people stand up. So not everyone is a vanguard, and it can be difficult to do that. So I 100% agree. We all need to be acting, but some people don't have the confidence. They know there's something wrong, but they don't have the confidence. And also there are other people out there who are highly emotionally reactive, who will push people into doing stupid things, right? We know that we're being called the far left. We know we're being called extremists, and people getting very upset. They're seeing what's going on. They don't trust the system, and they might do and say things that are not actually going to help them in the long run, because it's too easy then for schools to be, see, it is the far right. See, they are extremists because look, they're swearing. So there is a place for groups who have a little bit more experience to provide a little bit of guidance and support to people who are a little bit confused, want to do something, don't know how to do something. So that one of the things I appreciate about what you guys are doing right now is you're going live to the community, and you're bringing people in to your show so they can actually engage in person. And that was one of the things that some of the people that I know locally were talking about. I'm working with a group called the Emberlight Project. The Emberlight Project is a new nonprofit, and they're very, very, very interested in their local area, going to pubs, going to bars, going to restaurants, getting people together to talk about some of these issues, but have fun. They might have a darts night. They might have a pub quiz night, but they're doing it whilst engaging with the community and helping them get out there. Because if you can help people, if you can support people, they're more confident in addressing some of these issues. Now, the advantage that we have in that particular area, in the Durham region area, is they have a lot of experience with some of the local parents groups who've pushed back with different strategies within the school board. And so they have successes that they can share. So there is a place for those of us who have had a little bit of experience to share it with other in in a live way, like in real life sort of situation. Now,
And non-threatening as well. I think that's always key. You're doing
friendly.
something fun. It's relaxed. We're just having a conversation. We're sitting down, like it says, at a pub. You got your drink. I got some chips, and we're just talking. And
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people need, because a lot of people do have the concern that, well, for example, we've been taking our show on the road, and we've been in live locations. And before, we started off with a camera to the audience, and we figured, okay, when people have questions, they'll just come up and they'll have the camera and they'll speak and they'll ask their question. Crickets. No one wanted to. They were happy to tell me their question and bring it up, but no one wanted to be online and ask a question, share a concern. And so when you put it in a more relaxed environment with no camera, I think a lot more people are open to speak and to listen.
yeah, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think that it's a model that is certainly is going to be replicated here out east. There's certainly an interest in this particular area. Like I keep saying, Durham region is right next to Toronto, and that still may not be able to happen in the Greater Toronto, or like in the Toronto area, because it's still too toxic, I guess, to be not progressive or socialist in Toronto. But there's budding things that are happening, and I'm hoping if that can spread out into other sort of general regions, then it can maybe infiltrate into Toronto. But yeah, I think there's very much a place for people to get together. And I think people want to get together. They want to talk about these issues. They want to do it in a non-threatening way, and they want to get advice, but they also maybe want to throw a dart or two or have a pint, right? Have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What do you feel like? You said, Pierre, that, when you went to go speak at the school board, you didn't have 10 people with you. But surely now, over the course of the last 5 years, you do have a good group of other concerned parents that are with you, do support you, do agree with what the awareness you're creating.
Yeah.
Are they too not also having a 30-minute conversation with their principal or with their child's teacher?
Yeah. I think people should have the conversations with the principal individually. That's my point. My point is, I don't go there with 10 people with me. I go there as an individual. There are 10 people in Abbotsford that disagree with this stuff, but they should do the same than me. I don't agree that I should go as a group, go to see
Correct.
a principal, at my daughter's school. I can deal. I'm the father. If I cannot deal with someone who act weird with my kids, I'm not. I don't deserve the statue of a father, kind of, you know what I mean? So it's just so it's no, you got father have to stand up and just, I mean, if you anyway, regarding people not asking questions, is because the past couple of years everybody was we got the cancel culture before too, right? Or being politically correct and all this BS, and every time you were speaking the truth, well, you were cancelled, or you were called a bigot or a racist or whatever, right? A transphobe. That was
Fringe minority.
Yeah, a fringe minority. That's right. But the thing is, because every time we're speaking, we always attack. It has created a chilling effect into the society, and when you create a chilling effect into the society like they did, this is why they push IDs, because they push IDs because they know that nobody's going to push back. But you have to push back. When you got a feeling that something is wrong, you have to talk about it. Or if you don't, you just destroy your own integrities. If you know that something's wrong, and you do nothing about this, you are just killing yourself from within. And I think people should think about that. Or they are destroying their own integrity by not fighting back. They just become weak and weak and weak. That's it. So they are. Yeah. It's easy. It sounds simple.
Everybody needs to be like Pierre.
But it sounds simple when I talk, because it is.
But it is that simple. This is the reality. It is that simple.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to realize. There's a reason why you've been so effective. But unfortunately, many people don't have that black and white sense of, I just need to do what's right because I'm a father or I'm a mother. And that's where other groups come into play, because our groups are formed of people who have the same sentiment. We need to do it because it's the right thing, and not doing it means we have absolutely no integrity. And what kind of parent are you? So it's filled with people like that who have a lot of experience. And what we're finding is that other people are coming in who are maybe not as confident, and get that confidence by osmosis through the experience that those more confident people have had, right? But everyone at the core, we would do much better if we were all more like Pierre.
But let me tell you something. Lacking confidence is not an excuse not to protect your children.
I agree.
I mean, some
Agreed.
people can lack confidence. I'm okay with that. Doesn't mean that you cannot protect your children. So it's
I
like,
agree.
yeah, a lot of people. I know a lot of people, even myself. If people think that it's super easy to do this stuff, it's not always easy. You got to push yourself to go there and to go challenge those people all the times, and especially in the beginning, because in the beginning you had to. I remember I had to build my argument, with them, because they come back with things. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, how do I reply to what they just said? Because everything sounds like sunshines and rainbow, right?
Yeah.
You listen to those people, everything they're doing sound great. They want us they want the kids to be safe, right? Safe, and they want to an inclusive schools. And but when you think about that, there's nothing safe and inclusive. Well, if somebody come to you and tell you, listen, because of diversity, equity, and inclusions, we need to. The government want us to expose your children to sexually explicit material because it's going to make your children safe. Does that make sense? That makes no sense, but that's the way those people talk.
That
right?
is, give them a safe environment, a safe place.
You can sell bullshit like that to everybody, right? You just add a couple nice little words into your sentence, and here we go. Your children are exposed to that kind of stuff.
Well, last year at the BC legislature, your Minister of Education shut up. Who was it that read a book? It was Eleanor and Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that? Yeah, Eleanor and Park, which is one of the egregious books, being very explicit in the language of what people might do together in a very intimate situation.
Yeah.
Read it in the legislature, was stopped by the Speaker of the House, and the Minister of Education, is it Rakna Singh, tried to defend this book, who was too explicit to read in the legislature, by the way, as perfectly acceptable, and she's very, very proud of her school. And there was a whole campaign after that to try to remove this Minister of Education, Rakna Singh, which failed. Is she still the Minister of Education at the minute?
No, she lost the seat. I think it's a BC Conservative that got the seat now. She lost with the election. She was not fired. She just lost the last election. So she's not there. But I think it's a BC Conservative that is there, if I remember good. And the book Eleanor and Park that Bruce Banman exposed. Bruce Banman knew that the book was there because of my site. So it's because it was connected to Corky Neufeld, which is the trustee, which I sent all the books to them.
Yeah.
And the book Eleanor and Park at this very moment is at my daughter's school. So I'm fighting right now with the school board. I got everything is online on my site. You can see all the emails. I got probably a dozen of emails sent to the school board and the principal and the superintendent, and they came back to me. They have no choice to come back to me. I'm a parent. It's very simple. I got 4 kids there, so I got the conversations ongoing about this book. So I may have that book removed, but the thing is that book is super explicit.
That action was very effective because it was all over the media. Nobody has attempted that in any other province. We see it in America. In school boards and whatnot, but that has not been attempted in any other province, and it was very effective. It would be really great. Like, that would be another really great action. But here we're dominated by the progressive conservatives, who might as well just be progressive liberals because they act exactly the same. Reading that in the legislature, reading some of these books that are common in schools. Again, I'll bring the Durham District School Board into play here. There was a big controversy about the book Gender Queer for a long time, trying to get it off the shelves. Anyways, they decided that it was perfectly acceptable. And who are we to judge what book should be read? It's a very controversial book at the time. And they decided to keep it. But no one has brought this to the legislature and read it and then been told, I'm sorry, that language is unacceptable in these halls. Well, if it's unacceptable for adults to listen to in polite company, why are we putting that in schools? And nobody's asking those questions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Why is it okay for children to read and to listen to it? No, it's not. And they know it. But when it's played out, and especially when there's a camera there, all they can do is just cut off your mic.
Yep.
Yeah, and the criminal code is very clear about this. It's not even exposing exposing children to sexually explicit material is child abuse. But the criminal code is very clear about it, that it's made available sexually explicit material to children.
So in the libraries.
So when the school board said, oh, the book is there, but we're gonna keep there. They already committed crimes. I just don't get it why the RCMP don't get involved. But we all know that everything.
I mean, is there intention to put it behind a glass case, like the way some people, supermarkets are locking up some of their goods? Like you have to be of a certain age to get this book out, or is it just going to keep sitting there on the shelf where anyone of any age can access it?
They just sit there. The Peel District School
Exactly.
Board, which is another school board just above the Toronto District School Board, last year had a book purge. We keep talking about book banning, right? They keep saying that, oh, these conservatives want to ban books. Well, the Peel District School Board in their library essentially got rid of books earlier than 2005 because it didn't conform to their new ideas of what books should be. They were racist, they were colonial, they were this, that, or that, whatever, and replaced them with a lot of these more acceptable, curated social justice books. So
very footloose of them. That's crazy.
And look the way they put it too. Every time they talk about it, they always say, "Oh, all those conservative religious freak want to remove the books." But there is actually, I know liberals, okay, and I know NDP people that vote for the NDP. I don't know why, but they vote for them. They still don't want the book. They still don't want children to have the breast cut, and they don't want them to be exposed to a sexual. So the way they always turn this is always all those conservative people. But it's not just the conservative that want.
No, it isn't. I'm not a conservative, and I'm one of the loudest voices in Canada on this particular topic in education. And I'm certainly not a conservative. I agree with this. I'm tired of hearing that it's just a right-wing, blah, 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 conservative, blah, blah, blah. It isn't. This is just about people understanding that exposing young children to inappropriate sexual material at an age that they are not able to comprehend is actually abusive towards them. They're not ready for that. And that's not a conservative value. That's just a human value.
No, I would agree. Yeah. I literally brought my boys home from the library event. There's a kids club after school, and I took them there right before the show. And I'm sitting away. The kids are having a good time doing a craft. And then 2 girls came over that go to the local school and came over to my son, and they're chit-chatting. And I just heard, lesbian. And then, well, I'm bi. So I was like, okay. These are kids club goes up to age 10. So we came home and I just asked my son, says, love, so-and-so, what were they talking about? And he said, they came over and they pretended they were married. I was like, okay. And then someone said, you must be a lesbian then. I was like, okay. And then one of them, and I said her name, what did she say? She says, well, actually, I'm bi. This is a 9 or 10-year-old girl.
Yeah. It's inappropriate.
No kidding. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. She very well may be, but as a 10-year-old, I don't even recall discussing sexuality with my peers. Tell you,
Christopher Wells, who is one of the newest senators here in Canada, has been pushing queer theory for a very, very long time. He, in many, you can search it on YouTube. He talks about this quite a lot, has been pushing this very common queer theory idea that children understand their sexuality from like 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever. And so he often regurgitates a lot of the EGAL data collection that says that more and more children are coming out earlier and earlier at school. And this is a really good thing because children know their sexuality from a really young age. And this is a really great thing. And there's no red flags amongst these people as why is it that those 7-year-olds, that those 8-year-olds are suddenly declaring sexual identities, gender identities, that it's not normal. But I don't think Christopher Wells has any children at all. I'm quite certain he's a gay man. I don't know if he's married, but he certainly doesn't. I don't think he has any children. And to make all these declarations about how great it is that all these children are declaring all their sexual identities. So in their mind, if all these children are declaring their sexual orientation and their gender identities at earlier and earlier ages, and in their minds, in the comprehensive sexuality education mindset, we're all born with a sexuality, so we're all born as sexual beings, right? And so we all know that we're bisexual or pansexual, this or that from early age. So they kind of see their role as educators to expose children as young as possible to all these flags. So we know all these flags in the classroom. You have your pansexual flag and your demigirl flag and, all these different varieties of flags because they need to be helpful to these children. They need to help them come out and have a safe space. And so they need to educate them about all these sexualities that they could have. But if you're looking from a child psychology perspective, the children don't really understand what's going on, really. And it is, and what you can't get across to some of these people is that is sexualizing the childhood. Like it's introducing very mature sexual topics to children who are not capable of fully understanding what it is that they're getting into. And that's a problem. And that's a problem because even on Pierre Barnes' website, there's an enormous amount of child sexual abuse in school. Why? Because predators go where their prey is. And if we're creating a situation where there's a boundary blurring between what's acceptable sexual behavior at a younger age, that's not going to be helpful. I don't know if we have any statistics on this, but it'd be interesting to see an analysis on the rates of teachers being accused of sexual misconduct over the last few years. I mean, I don't know, Pierre, is there any kind of data analysis on that?
Well, I got all the case from BC, Alberta, and Ontario since 1998. So you can make statistic with all the information. I got over 2,000 cases anyway of teacher misconduct.
Do you see any trends in it?
Huh?
Do you see any trends in the data?
I didn't make any data analysis about that. I didn't make I just read the case. I didn't make any calculations to see if there are any trends. That would be an interesting one, actually. That would be an easy one to do. I just never thought about it. I can do that easy. That's right.
I mean, look, there's a lot of complaints about the Catholic Church, and there have been issues with sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. But the point of that is predators go where their prey is. And if you are blurring the boundaries in school, predators know that. They notice that it is going to be a destination of choice. And I would imagine that over time you would see a trend of an increasing amount of sexual abuse happening in schools by teachers who are pushing a lot of this.
But
one could argue we've seen that with the story time hour, when all of a sudden these drag queen story time hours, we're finding out that some of them are sexual offenders.
Yeah.
So that came out. Initially it came out like, oh, isn't this lovely? We're creating awareness. And then as time went on, well, this particular person has a record. This particular person has a record. So yes, they go to where their victims will be.
The problem now is that we are, how can I say this way? We are normalizing sexual abuse. So I don't think the case are going to go high, because there are stuff that would have been considered sexual abuse 10 years ago that are not considered sexual abuse now, like exposing children to sexually explicit materials. I'm sure there are a lot of cases when there is sexual abuse happening, but it is not considered that anymore. And and I'm 100% agree with Melanie about the pedophiles. They go where they can access children. So now the school is the perfect place. So now they all want a freaking job as a teachers. That's what's going to happen. Those people are going to get job as a teachers if they are pedos, because this is where they access the children easily.
Yeah. I saw a poster. It must be on X, and it had along the lines of a pedophilia is a disease, not a crime, something like that. No, it's a crime. It can be all of the above, but it's still a crime.
Oh my God. Seriously, let's talk about queer theory. The University of Toronto just put out a paper from the anthropology department that basically makes excuses for bestiality and saying that we're being a little bit too judgmental, and this is a little bit like white settler colonial. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that sort of mindset, right? And I think Pierre's probably got a point there, is that what might have been logged as sexual abuse in the past and criminalized may not necessarily be the case today. But I also think it's, it might even be a question of, it's not just that a predator will go where their prey is, although there is that. And we know that's a fact. We've known this for a very, very long time. This is not new information. But what might also be happening is that you get an increase of, you have these teachers coming into teacher education. The boundaries are blurred between what's acceptable interaction with your students and what isn't along the sexual lines. Like when we talk about some of these gay straight alliance clubs, whatever it is going on in these schools in terms of intersectional queer acceptance, there's a blurred line between what's acceptable and what wouldn't have been acceptable in the past. And so I think that creates a situation where people can end up doing things that are completely inappropriate because they might not, I'm not making excuses, but there's opportunity there that may not necessarily have been there in the past, is what I'm getting at. A predator is going to be a predator, but also what's happening is you're creating an opportunity for people who might not have offended in the past because they understand a boundary, but that boundary has been blurred. And so people might be getting into this sort of thing. So I'd be curious to see data over time, even though, I don't know, maybe Pierre, you're right. Maybe that wouldn't be logged. I don't know.
Yeah,
It hasn't helped that we've now come up with the acronym for MAP. I think that was a lot, just starting that slippery sliding slope of saying, yes, it's now starting to be acceptable. We desensitizing to it. No, it's pedophilia and it's wrong.
It is. Yeah, exactly. I just can't believe they went with that acronym, and now it's like it's something like they want to normalize that. But you know, the thing is, you know, in order to abuse the child, they have to groom the child and they have to groom the populations. And there is that belief that a child get abused, and 1 year after he's gonna tell everybody that he's got abused. That's not the case. So I think we're gonna see a lot of trends in sexual abuse in the next probably 5 years, when all the children who has been abused today are going to realize that they has been abused, and they're going to talk about it later. Listen, most of the people start to talk about it that they abuse only when they're 40 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they old. It's not something that, it's not people think, oh, you know, they're going to talk about it, they're going to expose the predators. There is case when it happened, but most of the time they don't talk about it. There's lots of shames going on with all this stuff. And I think one of the important things, we keep focusing on the predators. We need to make a campaigns out there to give voice to those victims, so they feel comfortable to speak about the issue. We need to make a big campaigns about you know, helping all the kids who has been mutilated, to give them voice and give them a financial help to get treatments. Let's say, especially with the one who's got some surgeries or drugs. And it's the same things with the kids who has been sexual abused. We need to make a campaign out there to give them a voice. And you know, and that was one of the only reasons, because I actually did not believe in protests before. I did not at all. I thought that protests were useless until I went there, and I realized, shit, every time there is a car that passed, maybe there is a child there that's been groomed to believe something, or there's been abuse, but then that child realized that there is people there for them. You know what I mean? So they pass by, right? So that's why it's all, I mean, it has to be peaceful, and, you know, it has to be focused on the cause, you know. And I think that's one of the problems right now, too. That's why we're failing in some point, is there's so many causes out there. People, they lose completely. For me, I always focus on the SOGI stuff. I don't focus on anything else, and I don't care about anything else, to be honest. And so I'm just focusing on that. Anyway, so that's my point about protests. I think they were useful, but now they're getting out of control anyway. But yeah.
Well, I think the point you made, that we're in 5 years' time, we're going to be hearing people, you know, children take that step to speak out, to share the abuse. I think we're seeing that now with detransitioners, because there was such a push at such an early age to get those hormones in you, get that surgery, that now, you know, 2 or 3 years in, and they're still teenagers, but the regret is kicking, and the realization that this is not the body that I wanted, and I'm not really what or who I thought I was a couple of years ago. So I think there is going to be an avalanche as time goes on of a lot of people speaking out and sharing, again, the variety of issues that these children have going to be dealing with. I think we're going to be seeing it for sure. I would agree, Pierre.
Let me tell you some things about the children, the detransitioners, right? There is something that we need to look at it regarding that. Every time and this is the parts of the grooming, so that's why I told you it takes time for people to talk about this stuff. The detransitioner, when they talk about what was done to them, they always say to people, I should not have done this. They always put the blame on themselves. They say, oh, I was young, I did not understand, I went on puberty blockers, I thought that cutting my breast would have been a good thing for me. They always put the blame on themselves. You know what I mean? But that's what the groomers wants. That's what the child
So,
abuse.
because they would have had a support system
not-
encouraging them to
But
do that.
my point is, it's not the fault of the child if the child's got his breast cut. Even if the child say, I want it, it's the fault of the society. It's the fault of the doctors. So
Yes.
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
That's what woke me up when I realized the teachers and the doctors were complicit in literally encouraging young teenagers to actually go through medical transition without parental knowledge or consent. What is going on with our society?
Yeah, but most of that, but that will stay in the head because, when you are abused as a child, you are abused with the brains of the child. There's a parts of you that stop growing up. So that's why the shame is always there for someone who's been abused. That person has been abused as a child, but before that person has been abused, it has been groomed to believe that what happened to him or her, it's either their fault or it's either normal or it's either that he was or she was looking for it. She was seducing the other person or she wanted her breast cut. You know what I mean? And she stayed with that IDs because it didn't go. It didn't. That's what happened with trauma. That's what happened with abuse. Your brain stay at that same place when you think it's you desire that even when you grow old. So that's why it's not magic. People don't just speak about this stuff. The shame is always there, and that is, and with the kids who and you can see this really with the kids who have been mutilated by the state, and when they speak about it, you can see that shame. And we have to, if anyone interview one of them, I think it's important to bring this to them that, listen, it's not your fault, right? You didn't choose that. You were groomed to believe that was good for you. So that's something very important. And we need to make some more campaign about this stuff. Yeah.
I don't disagree. Pierre, we have a question. We're going to be switching over to our supporters area soon. So we're going to be ending with the public. But I think I have a question from one of our supporters. I think it'll be beneficial for everyone. Can we find schools by searching cities and school district on your website?
Yes, you can actually. There is a place.
Fantastic.
If you go to search down, you're gonna find the Follett libraries. You can try to find your school district there. There is a place when you go books and books locations.
1 second. So search.
Go on search.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, sorry. My gosh, wait, it's tools.
Tools. Okay.
And
search links.
Search links. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you see the search book down. Then you get a Follett library right there.
This, perfect.
Then you click on this. It's gonna bring you to these things, and you put your school districts. But not every school districts use the Follett. Some use others. So sometimes you just go on the school district site and you try to figure it out. But if you have a kid, listen. The best things is if you have a kid in school, ask the principal to give you access to the library. They're all online, and the principal has to give you access. Or your children's got a password to have access to the libraries. That's why I'm saying at some point it's a local issues, right? People have to take the step.
Okay.
Because not everything is available online because they start to password protect everything. So.
Okay, so if you want to, Melanie, we'll just go to you, and then Pierre, if you just want to give some rounding up comments to the public before we switch over, go ahead, Melanie.
Well, I just want to encourage anyone who has an interest in this topic. If you're concerned about what's going on in your schools, there are groups out there. You can come to my YouTube and reach out to me if you like, or on my X and DM me if you like. But there are going to be a lot of local groups already. I don't know them all, even though I know quite a few local groups across the country. If you don't have one, start one, right? Facebook. I know a lot of people who use Facebook as a way of organizing Facebook groups, as a way of organizing their local groups, right? And so I would highly encourage anyone who is interested in either finding a group or starting a group, or reaching out to people who've been doing it for a little while. There's a lot of information out there. Certainly my channel and Pierre's website are good sources of information, but you can also go to your school district, look at the policy documents, read them for yourself, get really informed, get to know your teachers, go into the school, like Pierre says, go into the library, have a little look. I would just encourage everyone to become as involved as possible.
Perfect. And then Pierre, closing comments for the public?
Well, pretty in line with Melanie. But I will say, don't hesitate to ask if you need help. Don't hesitate to ask, and I'm sure Melanie will help as well. And all the activists that you can see online regarding stuff. Listen, there are parents that are asking me to write email for them. I do it. So you can PM me, you can ask for help. I will help. And if I cannot find the help, I'll find somebody else who can find the help. Like sometimes I forward stuff to Billboard Chris, let's say, because he's got a lot of contact, right? So if I cannot help, but sometimes just writing, if you need help to find the books, or if you need help to write emails, just don't hesitate to ask. There's a lot of people that can help, and I can help myself to write email. I like that. I like to write email to those widows. Trust me. So, and I'm pretty good at it, actually. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
If you need some, but do something at least.
That's right. Do something.
Do what you can do anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. So public, before we head over to our supporters area, just want to highlight to you that tomorrow, Saturday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Jason will be taking part in the Freedom Train International Special Report. Live debate on Trump's proposed annexation of Canada, alongside fellow Canadians such as David Craden, Viva Fry, and Wayne Peters, as well as international guests Nicola Charles, Edward Sauls, Ivor Cummins, and Matt Scow. We'll be discussing, they'll be discussing their perspectives on Trump's proposed annexation. And this is a conversation worth having. And so we will be streaming it. And join us, The Lavigne Show, at 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern, on Saturday, January 18th, 2025. But otherwise, public, thank you very much for joining us. And if you want to go ahead and become a member of the supporter of the Lavigne Show, go ahead over to Locals. We'll be carrying on the conversation then. Otherwise, everyone have a fantastic weekend, and God bless.
All right, folks, that's a wrap on the public portion of today's show. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, please share it with friends and family. Want to connect with the Lavigne Show community? Become a free member today and join the vibrant space dedicated to champion justice, accountability, and open dialogue. Engage with myself and fellow advocates, and stay in the loop on our latest broadcasts. Want to do even more? Become a supporter for just $7 USD, $10 Canadian monthly. If you can afford more, you're welcome to increase your support, helping us stay truly independent. Supporters unlock full, uncensored live streams, interactive Q&As, behind-the-scene content, and so much more. Ready to join? Head over to thelavigneshow.com to become a member or supporter. If you have any questions or need help, email members@thelavigneshow.com or call or text 587-673-9955. Supporters, we'll see you shortly. Thank you, and God bless.